Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Good to see ya. Good to see
Good
you
to see you.
guys. Yay. All right. How are you guys doing?
Fabulous.
Yeah?
Yep.
Fine
Thanks.
Friday. I don't have any sun, unfortunately. I'm just looking
Oh.
at a gray sky, but it's fine. All right. I am going to give people just a little bit more time in case anyone else wants to pop in, and then we will go ahead and get started. Hey, Wendy. Good to
I
see you. How are you doing?
oh I currently right now I'm finishing up season tax prepare.
Oh, there you
So I
go.
might be bugging in and out and definitely off video, but I'll be listening.
Totally fine. Yeah, people do that. They sometimes just pop in while they're doing other things, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll send you guys the recording too. You'll have it in the community as well. So you'll be able to watch any part of the replay that you missed. So no problem. Awesome.
I'm
Okay.
just eating, so I'm gonna keep going in and out too, so sorry.
No problem. Yeah, you guys, it's totally fine. What's going to happen? I'll just go ahead and get started, and as people come in, I'll let them in if anyone else is here. But basically, this workshop is going to be something where I'll teach, and then I'm going to try and leave some space for Q&A in case anyone has questions. So just want to make sure everyone knows we're going to try and make sure if you have questions, we'll get to them as well. So, all right, let's go ahead and just jump in and get started. I am going to go out here. Okay. So, welcome to Making Beautiful Landing and Website Pages. This is a workshop. I'm Christina. Some of you guys might have seen me. I'm in customer success in a whole bunch of hats that I wear. So, you'll see me in tickets, you'll see me in concierge, and other places as well. But yeah, so basically what's going to happen is I'm going to teach today about helping you guys learn just a few tips and tricks on how to design your pages using our new builder and make them beautiful. So I'm not going to go too much in depth on all the nitty-gritty things about the builder because it's amazing, but there are so many things. So I'm not going to be able to get to everything, but I'm going to try my best to get as much done as possible for you guys to help you just know some little tips and tricks to make your pages a little more lively, a little more designed, and maybe more on brand for you. With that being said, Silas, he is one of my colleagues. He's done a bunch of workshops on style guides and on the builder itself, so he goes in depth. So I'm just going to drop that link in the chat here. You can find it in the community as well, but you can access those workshops at any time to kind of go deeper. So I would definitely recommend using that as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to start with a page. We're going to build a landing page together. And I'm going to use one of my pages that I've built for something else. I'm going to use it as a reference point to show you guys some things that you can do with the builder as well. And I'm going to let someone in here. We've got everyone here. Hey, Melanie. We're going to go ahead and get started here. I mentioned to everyone, but we're going to have Q&A at the end. So, feel free to just save your questions. Also, I didn't say this before, but if you have questions while I'm teaching, you can either drop them in the chat or you can raise your hand during the Q&A. Either way, I'm probably not going to get to them till the Q&A anyway. So, but just so you know, feel free to drop in the chat if you want to. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up my site here. Okay. Hold on here. Make sure I'm sharing the right screen. There we go. Okay, can everyone see this good? We're all good there? Hopefully. If you're not able to see it, let me know. All right, so this is a page that I've built using some of the features that I want to teach you guys how to use. You can see here how when I build the page, the elements are kind of appearing in a slide animation. This image is overlaying this other section. This section divider is curved. Like all these little things you can use as well, right? So I want to make sure I go over some of this stuff. I'm not going to go over how to create every single part of this page, but you can see here there's a lot of things that you can do. You can make certain parts of your headline have different colors. You can add this little box with the shade behind it. I mean, there's so many different little things. So I'm going to show you all of my favorite ones. And if you have any questions, you'll let me know. So this is our demo account. I'm going to build it here. First, we're going to go ahead and create a landing page. So if I go to marketing landing pages, first things first, I just want to remind you guys that when you create a landing page, you're going to do it over here, create a new landing page. You're going to see other templates that you can use. So you can build it from scratch, or you can use one of our landing page templates, right? So we do have quite a few options here. If you need something to get started with for a full page and you just have no idea how to structure it, all of these templates can be customized. You can edit them, delete them, change things on them. It's just meant to give you a starting point. I'm going to start with a blank page just so we can go over from the ground up how to use the builder for these little tips and tricks. So I'm just going to call this, I like to call mine your business coach. We'll say Life plus Biz Coach. Okay, so when you create your new page, you're going to give it a name like I just did. You're going to come in here and you're going to automatically be prompted to add your first section. So we're trying to just guide you in. Now, when you're adding sections, something to keep in mind, we do have templates, right? So you'll have a template for the full page, or if you start from scratch or you're using a templated page, regardless, when you're adding a section, you can use one of our templated sections as well if you want to. And these have all these different types of templated sections. I think also this is a great thing to start with if you don't really know how to design your page, or you're looking for ideas on how to design certain sections on the page. I would go through this because there's a lot of different ways they've set this up, essentially. So that's the first thing. I'm going to go ahead and add a blank section down here. Okay, so when you're going to add your first section, the first thing before we jump into that, I just want to briefly touch on is the style guide. Not going to go into too much depth. You can watch Silas's workshop for the details, but I will say the style guide is super key because this is going to be the place where you are basically setting the theme for your page, right? So it's the baseline of all your colors, your fonts for all the different types of headlines, subheadlines, everything, paragraph, pre-headline, and then styles for your buttons, okay? So the reason this is important is because you can use the style guide, the customizations that you set here throughout the page, right? Which is really important because then you don't have to rebuild different, every single button. You don't have to design it every single time. Or every single headline. You don't have to choose the font size and choose everything, the same font family every single time. You have to build it, from scratch. You don't have to do that. You can just choose it from the style guide that you set. So that's something really important to note. Another thing too with style guides is you can switch them. So let's say you create a new page and it comes with a style guide, right? Which is great, but maybe you don't want to use that style guide. Maybe you've already built a page and you're using a style guide on that page that you want to use again here, and you want to use it in both places. First thing to note, you can switch it to that style guide on this page. So you would come to the style guide section, click on switch up here in the top left, and then you'll see the list of style guides in your account here that you can then select. See a preview of what it looks like. There's nothing on the page right now, so I can't preview it, but you would see it here in those colors and fonts, and then click select. I'm not going to change my style guide, but that is something to note. The other thing too, just a reminder, is that if you are using a style guide here that you also are using on a different page, and you make an edit here, it will also edit the style guide there. So just keep that in mind. It will affect both places, all the places it's being used. Another thing too with the style guide is this is where you're going to set your default color palette. This is, I was confused by it in the beginning, so it's understandable if you're not sure like how this works. It's actually incredible. So you put your color palettes here and you can kind of follow the prompt for lightest, light, dark, darkest, accent. And what that does is it controls, we populate those colors down here in all these different types of themes. And these themes can then be used as for different sections so that you don't have to recreate a color scheme on every section. You can just pick the theme and boom, it's going to put all the background color, all the headlines, subheadlines, pre-headlines, links in the colors that you set for that theme. And then never fear, you can always edit it again. You can always choose one and then customize it a little per section. So you don't have to be married to this, but it's really cool because you can actually just set your color palette here and pull from that on your sections. And I'm going to show you what that looks like, so don't worry. But it's great. You can also see the different previews for all these different themes on the right side, which I find really helpful. And you can customize each little part of it as well within each of these themes yourself if you want to make any changes to it. And then another quick tip is if you're not really sure about your color palette, like you're looking for colors and you're not sure what to do, I use this site a lot. It's called coolors.co. It generates a palette for you. So if you need any inspiration, just click start the generator and then click the space bar. Ooh, I like that. Yeah, and you can just kind of find palettes that you like. The hex codes are down here and you just copy those and move them into Simplero. So that is another trick I just want to make sure you guys know about. Okay, so the first thing we're going to start with on the page before we add sections, and this is something that I have recently realized the power of, is you want to edit the settings for your body. So the body is what houses all the sections on the page. So it's the default background color and the background animations and everything for the full skeleton of the page. And then you're adding sections on top of the body that then can have their own settings and their own colors. So what do I mean by that? So let's say we go to the body. You can actually set the color, the background color, for the full page and the theme for that. So it'll include what your headlines will automatically pull from, the colors that will automatically pull from until you change it per section. Okay, so let's say I want the background of my page to be green as a default. So I would set the body, again, I got there from here, the list of sections, click on body, and I would change that theme to my alternate. And then all my headlines will default to black and my links will default to red. The other thing that I really love now, and I'm so happy we implemented this, is the animation. I'm so excited. You can make different elements, almost everything on your page can fade in or slide up or clip. Like we've got all these different animations that you can do, and you can choose the speed here. And something really cool, I'll show you what that looks like on this page, for example, is I chose slide in, right? And you can see how as I'm moving down the page, all the elements are sliding up. So it will affect the full page, but I really love that feature and I'm so happy we implemented it. So that is where you can find it. It's on the body. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and add a section, and I'm going to show you what each of these components are. I'm not going to go into too much depth on this, but I want to just touch on the skeleton of a section so you know. It's going to help you understand how to design it. So the section itself is comprised of as many rows as you want. And the rows, right, they're like this. And then within the row, you can have as many columns as you want, okay? So this section has one row with one column in it, but I might want it to have two columns, so I could click this little plus button, and there, now I've got two columns, and I can slide between them. And maybe I want a third one, and there you go. So sometimes you might see someone with an element over here, like an image, a small logo, and then they have words over here and a bunch of space in the middle. I would just add 3 columns and then slide it to be where you want it. And then this can be blank, you don't have to put anything here. And then over here, I can add an image by clicking add element, boom, there's an image. Over here, I can add text, clicking headline, right? So that's just an example. And then within the columns are the elements, okay? So the elements are gonna be orange. And those are, again, all of the different elements that you can add to a page, like headlines, bullet lists, buttons, contact form. I mean, there's so many things. I'm not going to go into too much depth, but you would add the elements that way. And a fun thing too, you can duplicate your sections like this, and you can actually move different elements or rows or columns or sections by dragging and dropping them. So let's say I want to move, I put an image, oh no, just kidding, I'll put an audio. Let's say I put an audio here and I want to move it down here. I can just drag, I press and hold on that orange audio. So you got to hover over the element, find the orange box, press and hold, and then I slide it and drag and drop it here because I want to put it here. Okay, can also drag and drop the row. I want to put it beneath here, right? So I hover over it, find the row, press and hold, and then slide it down, right? So that's just another tip and trick. I just want to make sure you know about these little nitty-gritty things because they're important as you're building out the page. It'll make your life easier if you know that that's possible. And then when you've got elements, or so a section, a row, a column, or an element, they can all have their own settings. So what I mean by that is, let's say I hover over a section, or let's say I hover over this section. The full section is here. I can click on the word section, and that's just going to show me the title of the section here. I can change the title of the section if I want to, just so that I can manage my sections and it's easier for you to organize if you want to do it that way. But here I can actually change the background or the theme of that section in these settings, right? So when you click on it, the settings for that section will appear on the right. And let's say I want to change it to light. There we go. And then you can also add margin and padding around the section. So again, the difference between margin and padding is very subtle. Margin would be adding extra space around the section versus padding is adding extra space around what's inside the section, if that makes sense. So for example, if I want to add extra margin around this section here, then I can click small and it's going to add space. Do you see how that just added some padding around it, right? And it's pulling the body color behind it because the body is behind the section, right? And then if I were to add extra padding, like it's on medium right now, so if I put large, you can see it added more space, very subtle, but it added some more space around that inside the section. Okay. So that's kind of the difference between margin and padding, and you can play with that on all of the different components of the page, which is really cool, and I love it. So you can do it on the section. You can also do it on the row. So if I hover over the row, all the settings come up. Maybe I want the row to have its own background color. Boom. I want to give it more margin. Can go like this. I want to give it more padding. Go like this, right? So you can do that on the row. You can do it on a column. So something I've seen that some people will do, let me delete this, is let's say let me go ahead and change this back to light. Okay, so let's say I want this column to have a headline, and then I want to add another element beneath it. So I click add element underneath it, and then sometimes I have to do it again. And then I can add a paragraph, right? So let's say this is all within that column. Again, if you are forgetting what's there, you can just hover over it until you see the green column and you'll remember, oh yeah, I've got 2 columns. So if I hover over it and I want to make this have be its own box, essentially, I can click on column, which opens up the column settings on the right. And then I can give that its own background color. So see, now that's got its own thing. And then over here, let's say I want to add an image. So I add new element and I put image. And then if I click on it, a cool thing with adding images is you can click add right here and then choose the image. So we also have stock photos. You can choose one from your library. You can upload it from your computer, or you can choose a stock photo for free from Unsplash. So those you don't have to give copyright for. Let's say I want to do like a flat lay of a desk or something. Sometimes I like those pictures. So let's say I do this one. Sometimes it takes a minute to load, but it will load. It might just be my internet. But so the image will appear, and you'll see here, it's right here. It's just going to appear. Once it appears, I could give this column its own background color behind the image as well, right? So if I click column here and I choose here, once the image appears, which it's taking its sweet time. Okay, here we go. Now it has its own background. Right? Or I can put it back as the same background color as the body or as the section, and then have it just look like this, right? If I click the image, I can drag and drop the sides of the image here to move it in, make it smaller or bigger, whatever I need. You can also click on the image, and on the bottom here, you'll see the alignment. So let's say I want to move it to the left a little, or the right, or keep it in the center. Whatever it is that you need, you can do. And then this is a little trick I'm going to show you guys because it's something that I've seen on some pages. But when you have an image here, you can see right now it has some padding around it. I can remove that if I want to, just like we talked about with the padding and the margin. So let's say there's no padding now on the image. Let's say I want to kind of overlay it over this box. So I've seen that happen sometimes with design. So if that's you, let me click on it and align it left. You can actually use the margin to do that. So when you're doing margin and padding, this is something I didn't touch on yet. You can choose the preset, small, medium, large, and that's just going to add margin or padding around it on all 4 corners. Or you can click on these little dots and just add your own. So you can use the slider to add as much as you want around all 4 corners, or you can click separate edges right here. Separate edges is going to allow you to change the margin for certain parts of, like this is just for the top and the other one's just for the bottom, right? So different sides of the image, if that makes sense. So if I want this to overlay this column, for example, I can click over here and slide it, make the margin a little bit less over here. I've seen that on some of Jenna Kutcher's pages. If I go to her site real quick, sometimes she does that. I just don't always remember which page it is. Maybe the Pinterest lab. So yeah, I see here you'd probably do one side, one column, and then another column with an image if you wanted to copy what she's doing. Here you can see she's got text that overlays this image, right? So you can do that by reducing the margin on the top edge of the text, the headline. Here, so you see how she's got this image, it's kind of beneath this section a little bit. She moved the margin down, reduced the margin on the bottom of the image, right? So I mean, there's different ways you can play around with that. I just wanted to show you how to do that, and then you can kind of decide how you want to play with it. So that's one thing that you can do as well. With rows and, with sections and rows, you can adjust the width as well. So let's say I've got a row with one column inside this section. And I'm going to give this row, I'm going to click on row right here and give it a background color so we can see it better. Maybe this one's better, actually. Yeah, something like that. So let's say I want this row to be smaller, right? So I can click on the row here and I can actually adjust the width of the row so it's inside this section, but it's smaller width. Sometimes I remove the max width. That's just, it says on any device, this is the max amount that we're going to pull from. I mean, you can keep it, you can remove it, but the width sizing is what matters here. And if I do full, there's that. And you can see also too, with the section, there's extra padding inside the section. So if I remove the padding, now the row is just taking up the whole section, right? So you kind of can play around with that, see what you like. The section also can be, you can minimize the width. If the section has a background color of black, for example, and I minimize that width, then it's going to come in and the body color, which is green, will be behind it, right? So anyways, there's a lot that you can play with there with the different colors and the designs and the width and all of that. So another thing that's important to note, and this is something that I've done on this page, is you can have background images or videos. So this one is a video. I think sometimes when I'm on the page too long, it just becomes an image, but it is a video. So if you see here, you'll see like it's on auto loop actually in the background, but you could also do an image if you want to. So I added text over this with a headline, and then I added a button, and I'm going to show you how to do this border divider as well. So over here, let me just add a new section. Let's just add one. So again, if I want to add a new section somewhere on the page, I would go underneath the section and add it here, or over here, I can click add section and that will add it to the bottom, right? I'm just going to add a blank section. We're going to do it from scratch, and I'm going to click on it, press and hold it, and slide it to the top of my page because I want it to be the top one. So let's say I want this section to have a background, right? A background image or a background video. You'll click on the section, okay? And then you're going to see on the right, if you scroll down, this is where you're choosing the color. Like you could choose a theme background if you have a color for it that you want. But if you want an image or a video, you've got to select image or video. So let's say if I select video, I can choose the video here, and I can also choose whether I want it to play on hover or if I want it to autoplay. Do I want it to loop? How do I want it to fit on the section? So all of that's done here. The other thing is if I do an image, which I'm going to do in this case just for the sake of the example. So let's say I do an image here. Again, I'm going to choose an image that I like. I'll maybe do a flat lay image. Let's do that. That's pretty. So you would pick the image that you like, and that's going to show up as the background image. Again, for some reason, images are just taking a little bit longer to load for me, but that's going to replace this green color whenever it wants to do that. There we go. So you'll see here that now when you add a background color or a background image or video, don't worry, it's going to be look really cropped. That's just because you don't have any content inside the image yet. So you'll have to add some stuff in here, and then it will begin to show the image more, and I'll show you what to do. So reminder, when you're adding an image, you can choose how it fits. we've got these different options. I usually go with cover because it usually makes it the cleanest looking. You'll see once we add more elements. But you could also choose contain. I wouldn't probably do that. I mean, it becomes this tiny little square. And you could choose fill, but that usually stretches it. So, but sometimes depending on what you're trying to build, you might need to use a different object fit type. So we've got those options. I'm not super well versed in the reasoning behind those object fit types. So if you have any questions on it, how the coding works or what the reasons are, the definitions for those, you can click on see how this property works and we'll take you to a guide on it. So it talks about what those are if you need more information on that. So, okay, so let's say I'm gonna add this cover. A cool thing that you can also do is parallax. So happy we added that too. I love parallax. So sometimes you might just want the background image to stay fixed as they're sliding through the page. I'll show you what that looks like. So if I say fixed right here, it's going to be hard to notice what that is until we add something. So we're going to add a headline. There we go. And I'm going to make this. So if I add a headline, I can highlight it. And now the WYSIWYG editor is going to appear. And I can put it in the center, right? You can also change the color of the headline if you need to here. You just highlight that text and now you'll see it show up here. And then above and below the headline, you can do a couple things. You could add space with a space bar, literally, and that will just start to slide this down. You could also, go back up here, you could also add spacers. So we have this element called a spacer. So I'm going to add an element, whoops, choose spacer beneath that, and then that I can actually adjust how much space is there, right? Obviously this image would probably need to be cropped a little bit if I was actually using it so that it doesn't wash out the text and all that, but for now we'll just leave that. I could also duplicate this spacer by clicking the little duplicate icon over this element and I can slide it up and put it above the headline. So if I need space above and space below or whatever I need, if I want to move this down a little bit, remove the space. So this could be like, welcome to my world. I don't know what you want to say, but you would say your headline and then you could have a button beneath it and then have the spacer. I mean, there's ways that you can construct this, but you'll see how, because I set the background to parallax, it's fixed as you scroll. The other option, again, the parallax is on the section settings because it's affecting the whole section. And I added the image there, right? But if I were to choose animated, it does this other funky thing. So it's hard to tell on this one, but you can kind of see that the image is moving as I scroll up and down. I don't know if you can see that. So that is what animated does. It's a whole different way to use it. And sometimes it actually is pretty cool. So you can kind of decide what you prefer as well. And usually with a background image, I recommend just to keep your page less noisy, making sure it's an image that could have text on top of it pretty well, like nature or a flat lay or something with a person on the other side and not right in the middle. Something that just helps so that the image, the words don't get washed out by the image, right? But let's say you've got something behind it that's a little noisy and you still want to use that image. We do have on the section, scroll down to where you added the image. You can also add a color overlay over the image, but behind the text. So again, let's say this text is white. So I'd highlight it, choose the text color. I'm going to choose, actually, it's like a little beige. And then I can make the background be, got to go back to that section. I can make the background look like this, right? So I can do color opacity. I could choose whatever the overlay color needs to be. And then I can choose how transparent or not transparent it is over here. So again, we always have that option as well if you need it in terms of, you know, making sure that your text is actually legible and whatever image you're using. Okay. The other thing that I want to remind you guys about is the bottom divider. So if I click here on the section and I scroll down, I can add this bottom divider option. Okay. So now this is, this row beneath it looks so weird. I'm going to delete that section. There we go. So let's say, okay, so now I'm going to change this section beneath it to a different color. Yeah, it's easier to see. Okay, so you see here on this section, I added a bottom divider. Now this is really awesome. You don't have to use any coding for it. It's all in the builder. You can choose the shape that you want to be here, right? I'm just going to start with this one. You can flip it so it's backwards. Okay, that is something that I've done. So I did it this way for the top part here, but then if we go down the page, I did it the other direction for this section, right? So I added this one and I flipped it, right? So you get to decide how you want to do that. And then if you choose width and you make it medium or you make it small, we just start adding more of them and make them smaller, those little loops of that shape. And then if you choose small, it's going to make it less curved, medium, a little more curved, large, very curved, right? So you get to decide how you want to use that. There's a whole bunch of other shapes, right? If you want to do it sideways, like it slides down, or like a wave, that's also an option too, right? So you find what works for you. You can add those little section bottom dividers all across the page in subtle ways that just kind of make it a little more visually appealing. So, and you can make it match your brand or the offering, you know, you can play with that. And then you can also add borders around any component of the page. So that's another kind of way to spruce it up a little. Let's say down here, I want to add a border around this column. I'm going to go ahead and remove this other column for a second because, yeah, so this is now, I'm going to add another column just to make it a little bit nicer. There we go. Okay, so let's say I want to add a border around this headline and this text. So I can hover over the column in that case, because that's where the border would be. And then I can choose border. And these three, 1, 2, and 3, are going to pull from the borders that I set in my style guide. Okay. Or I can click the little 3 dots and I can customize it all from scratch. So I can give it a whole different border depending on what I want. Let's say I want to give it this border. Let's say I want the style to look like this. And let's say I want it to be really thick or a little thick, right? So you play around with it. You can give it certain corners. So if the corners are more curvy versus, yeah, a complete circle almost, like an oval. So yeah, you can do that for pretty much any component. You could do it for a column like I just did. You could do that for a headline. So let's say I've got an element inside the column. I can click on that column and find a border that I want to put around it. That's a very strange border. I don't know who came up with that, but I'm going to choose this one. And then you can also do it for a row. So if I click on the row, I should be able to do that as well. See here, I can click a border. And then I can also do it, I believe, for a section. Yeah, so section can have a border. Probably wouldn't want to do it around this one because I've got this bottom divider, but you get my gist. So that's another way to kind of spruce up your page, make it your own, add some borders, add some things around it. And then with the elements themselves, there were a couple things I wanted to show you that can help with design. So one is if you add a font, so let's say I'm adding a headline, or let's say beneath here I would actually add a subheadline, right? So this is something that I would then highlight, and I'm going to make it centered. One little trick about centering, I'm going to move it up so it's a little bit closer. When you have an element, you add an element here, you can actually choose the automatic alignment over here as well. That just means if you add more text within the same element, like I press the return key and this is another line, it's going to stay with these settings here for the alignment. So it's going to stay centered. Now, if I wanted this one to be sideways for some reason and I wanted this one to stay centered, I would just highlight this one and then I can always change it just for this line at any time here. So that's just something to be aware of. You can also at any point change any of the colors on these headlines by highlighting just a part of it and then choosing the color that you want it to show up as. So it doesn't have to be that the whole thing is the same color. I think I did that on this, yeah, like here. Not has a different color, your average has a different color, BizBlog has a different color, so you can totally play with that. Now back to what I was doing. So with the fonts, just a reminder, this is where when you click on a headline or paragraph or pre-headline or sub-headline, whatever you chose, the settings for that element will show up on the right. And again, this is going to pull from your style guide. So you can choose the size that you want here. Make it big, make it small. You can also click on the little 3 dots. It's kind of a pattern. It's a theme throughout the page is when you see the little 3 dots, most likely that means you can actually customize it from scratch. So now you see it just removed all my settings, and I have to pick the font that I want to use myself. I can move it up and down, and I can actually choose the size manually here as well. Choose the spacing here, choose the line height here. So again, I can make it fully uppercase, fully lowercase, force capitalize. Like there's just all of this can be done manually as well. So that's just something to keep in mind in case you have a headline that you want to kind of deviate from your style guide headlines a little bit, like deviate from the style just a bit, but you don't want to have to change it for everything. You can always customize them individually. And then we already went over the images. The other thing was buttons as well. So buttons work the same way. Let's say I'm going to add a button beneath here. So I'm putting an element right here. I add a button in. Okay. Now you'll see here, every time you add a button, a couple things show up. One, there's GDPR, so you can remove that. You don't have to have that there depending on where you're located. If you need it or you don't, just click on the require GDPR consent if necessary option. And then submit, you'll see this button's gonna show, it's gonna always have this little thing here until you add a link to the button. So we did that just so that in case you launch it and you forgot to check the links, like maybe there's one button that just missed the link. We don't want you to have to manually go through every link. So you could just look at your page and do any of your buttons have this little triangle? If so, you got to link that button. So you'll see here, there's nothing linked. But design-wise is kind of what I'm going to touch on here. Buttons can also be styled the same way. So you can actually pick from the 3 style options that you set in your style guide. So 1, 2, 3 over here, right? So you got to click on the button first. And again, it's a theme, guys. So you'll see as you're building out the page, all of this stuff, like where do I find the settings for the row? Oh, the same way I found the settings for the element, right? So a lot of it's the same. It's really consistent. You'll be able to pick between the styles that you already designed. And the nice thing is we just released the preview of each style here, so you can kind of see what style it was. We used to just say 1, 2, and 3, which is hard to remember sometimes. And then let's say for a specific button, just like we said with fonts, let's say I actually want to use a different colored button or a different design. I just don't want to have to change it for my style guide. You can click on this specific button and then over here, click on the 3 dots. So again, very consistent, same thing that you've been doing. Click on the little 3 dots and now I can just customize this from scratch the same way I customized this button in the style guide. So I can just make this specific button have its own theme. I could give it separate edges, kind of like what we talked about. Maybe I want the padding to be 39 on each side, and then I want this one to be 23 on each. I mean, there's very specific numbers, but you get to pick how it looks. You can choose, I want it to have a border, not that border, something else maybe. The border needs a different color, right? I'm not gonna play with that too much, but you know what I mean. So you can design this button, give it the text that you want, the font family, the colors of the font. I could change that to beige if I wanted to. All of that can be designed here, and then obviously you're going to choose where the button goes down here. Another design element about buttons that is really cool is we make it easier for you to add icons to the button. So sometimes, I know I saw it on Jenna Kutcher's pages a lot. Oh, here, great. So you'll see here how she's got text and then she's got a little arrow. Maybe you want to do that on your page. We used to have, it was very complicated. Now it's much easier. Icons. So you're gonna, on the button, you're gonna click on the button on the right side, you're gonna scroll down and you're gonna see icon left or icon right. So let's say I wanna do exactly what Jenna Kutcher, or almost exactly, as much as I can, what she's doing here. So I would choose icon right in that sense, right? So I choose the icon. Now we will automatically do a check mark. You don't have to use a check mark, don't worry. You can click browse icons right here. And then you can say, so you can see I look for arrows a lot, but I'm gonna choose right arrow. So this is not in Simplero, right? It's Font Awesome. Now we have like an integration where you can just grab it from Font Awesome. Keep in mind, Font Awesome does have a free version and then paid versions. So if you see Pro, those ones are paid. I rarely ever need to pay for something. I've pretty much found everything I've looked for when I look for the free ones. So you should hopefully be able to find something here without having to use Pro, but you can always pay if you need to get one of these other buttons or other icons. So you'll see here, icon right. Let's say I really want this one. So I click on it. And then I just have to copy this code snippet by clicking on it. Literally, that's it. You don't have to do anything. Just click on it and then come over here and paste it into the FA icon spot. And now you'll see it shows up here. And then I can play with that. I can make it bigger or smaller, or I can change the color of the icon. I can make its margin be a little bit further apart from the text or further apart from the right side of the button. I mean, there's totally a whole bunch of stuff you could do with that. And then also, I didn't even say this too, but with the button down here, you'll see the alignment, or maybe I did mention that, but you can actually align the button across the page however you want it within that row or that column. Okay, so that is another thing to keep in mind. Now, I do see some chat. Let me see, where would you paste those codes? Yep, there you go. Can you change the height of the audio player also in a lesson? So I'm not going to go over the lesson right now just because that would be outside of the builder, but I can definitely follow up with you on that. If you want to put in a ticket, we can talk through that. In terms of the height of the audio player, it's a good question. You know, let me click on, I'd like to not do it in this section. Let me go down here. I'll add an element right here, maybe, possibly. So sometimes you'll see that it doesn't appear. Oh, right, because I have to do it there. All right, so now let's see if I add audio. So you're talking about adding the height of the audio. You know, these ones are not, we're not able to kind of adjust that. I'll show you what it looks like from the front end really quickly. Style Guide has unpublished changes. That's fine. This is our demo account. You'll see here. So obviously this page is not something I would release. You'll see here that even if I make it, it's like you can't really do that. You can adjust the margin around it, if that makes sense. And you can also adjust the column here. So let's say if I make it really small, yeah, that kind of, it makes it smaller, but not lower. And then if I were to click on the element itself and I remove the padding, that just moves it up. So you know, you'll see it doesn't actually make it thinner. We just have a very set design for audio, essentially. But that's a good question. What would go in the audio? Is it music playing in the background? Oh, that's a good question. No, so with the audio, you get to decide. It's just an audio MP3 that they can play when they click the button. So actually, I bet I could find something in our demo account. I have no idea what this recording is. I'm gonna choose meditation. That seems pretty tame. See here, when you actually add something, it shows you the actual player. So let's say it's here. So if I click play.
This is the holiday huddle.
Yeah, the holiday huddle. So they can click play and then boom. So that's how that works. You're essentially pressing play. It's not going to come on automatically or be like background music. If they do press play, you can make it loop though. So then they could just keep listening. So if you've got, I mean, that, I guess a use case for that would be like if you have a page that you are giving to people after they purchase something, maybe in your membership site, and you want to put your audios there instead of in a lesson, maybe because you want to design the page a little bit more than a course lesson can be designed. That might be one option. Then you could have the audio there and they can press play there and they could loop the meditation that way. So that's essentially maybe one use case for that. But that was a good question. I just want to make sure if there's anything pressing that I got to it. Okay, so a couple other things, and this is super important to know about just so that you guys know little tips and tricks to make your life easier when you're building the page. One thing is when you have a section that you love, like let's say you create a section and you're like, actually, I'm going to use this on multiple pages or maybe multiple times on the same page. You can actually save that section, or you can save a row inside of that section. You can save the element, you can save the column. So all of the elements could be saved this way, all the components, I should say. You can save it as a saved block is what we call it. And then you can upload that saved block somewhere else without having to recreate it again. So how do you do that? So let's say I want to save this section. Let's say it's done, ready to go, and I want to put it on multiple pages. I would hover over the section and click on the little save icon here. And you'll see that on all of them. See it on the element, you'll see it on the row, you'll see it on the column, wherever the column is. Here it is. Or actually, no, sorry, you will not see it on the column. You will see it on the row. But rows and elements and sections. So if I click on that save button here, that little icon, now you'll see I can give it a name. So welcome to my world. You can give it a description. This is just for you. And then you can save it. And then when you add a section, you can then choose that section as a template. So I'll show you how to do that. The other thing I really quickly want to mention is that let's say it's a footer, for example, like you create this custom footer. I actually built a custom footer on this page. I'm not going to go into all the details of how I did this, but it's pretty simple. I literally just had a column here, another column here, another column here, and then a column here. That's pretty much it. I made this an image, so it's not text that's backwards. You can't do that, but I had to put in an image for that. But I just had different columns here. I think I found a similar footer on Marie Forleo's account, her page, and I just kind of copied it. I put an element of the image here for the logo. I put all this stuff. I put a sign up form here. You can add that as an element, right? And I added links. So anyways, I created this footer and then I was like, there's no way I want to have to recreate this every time. So I saved it, but then also because it's a footer, you're probably going to want to make sure if you update anything in this section that the other places you've added the footer will also be updated, right? So that's something that I just would recommend making use of the global block feature. So if you save a section as a saved block, make it global in that case. Because then anytime you make an edit to it, we'll update that in all the places you added this section. So it's great for a footer, for example, but could be for other sections too. And then you would just save it. Now, one caveat, we don't have the ability to remove the global option once you choose it on a section, so just keep that in mind. I realized on this page, I was like, ooh, I kind of need this link to be different on every page. That's just a very specific reason why I would not want this to be global, unfortunately. But here we are. So that might down the road, they might change that. For now, just be aware that if you make a section global, it will not be able to remove the global option. It will stay global the whole time. Yeah, so let's say I save this as a section. So again, you save this section as a block. So I saved it as a block, good to go. Now, if I want to add it to this page again, or another page, let's pretend I'm on a different page, for example, I can go wherever I want to add that section. So I'm just going to put it at the bottom here. And then here you'll see all our templates like I showed you, but if you go to the saved block section here, there you can find the section that you saved. Sometimes on my computer, it just takes a while for these things to load, but they do load eventually. This is where it is. I click on it and then boom, we add it as another section, right, to that page. So that's just something that will make your life so much easier if you want to use multiple sections in multiple places without having to recreate it a bazillion times. And then another really important one that I don't want to not touch on is with different devices. So big trick. I always try and design the desktop version first. So you'll see up here we've got desktop, mobile, tablet, desktop, tablet, mobile. So I always start with desktop and just kind of design it how I want it to look, right? You could design each section for each device and just go down that way, like first do desktop, then tablet, then mobile for each one. Sometimes I get overwhelmed with that. So I just like to just design it in desktop, make it how I like it. And then I go to the tablet side, this tablet view, and I check to see what it looks like. Sometimes like this is not too bad. Some of the words are getting a little washed out, but I could play with that maybe without having to, adjust the settings. You might see some sections that really don't look good in tablet, but they look great in desktop. And then if you make changes to it, it's going to change it in desktop. And then you go back to desktop and you're like, I lost all my design. I had it so perfect. So what you can do is any of these sections. So you can do this for all the components, right? Row, column, or element, but I'm going to show you for the section. What I would do is duplicate the section. So hover over the section and duplicate it. If you need to duplicate it for all 3 devices, you would duplicate it again so that you've got 3 different versions of that section. Or maybe it's just tablet that you need to adjust it for, but mobile and desktop look good. You could just duplicate it once. Now, on the first section, I'm going to give it whatever name I want. So I could just say section, or I could call it, hero image or whatever helps me understand it, what it is. So I'm going to put hero because that's like hero image at the top. And then I always put desktop. This is just for myself. You don't have to do this, but it will help if you put like in brackets the device you're going to show it on. So I say, okay, this first desktop is going to be my desktop one. And then if you come back out, you can hover over it and I would deselect tablet and mobile. Okay, so now this section is only going to show up in the desktop version. Just left my brain for a second there. So it's only going to show up in that version, right? Now I duplicated this section so that this one would be my tablet one. So if I click on that section here, I'm going to call this one Hero Tablet, right? Save that change. And then I'm going to go back out. I'm going to hover over it and I'm going to deselect mobile and desktop. This is an extreme version. Like, let's say this is because you really needed to have all 3 sections customized very specifically and it was affecting the other devices. Then I duplicate it 3 times and just make sure this last one here, again, I can call it Hero Mobile just for myself to know, just to remind myself. And then you can hover over here and you'll deselect tablet and desktop. When you do that, you'll see over here, we also show which devices are deselected. But I like to have it in the wording too, just because this sometimes I have to squint to see which device it is. So I'm like, you know what, just the words are more clear for me. So, but it's up to you how you work best. But that is how you can then make a change to the desktop section and it will not affect the tablet section. So I can build it on desktop, love the design, look in tablet and be like, ooh, I gotta adjust something. Not this one looks fine, but sometimes it can really look different. And so then I can adjust it in tablet and it won't affect. So if I go back out here and I click on this one, I make sure I'm in the tablet one. This is the one that shows up in tablet. Boom, I can adjust it. It won't affect the other devices, and same with mobile. Okay, so that's another really important thing. I would definitely make sure to use that. Is it possible to insert any of my Shopify items into Simplero landing page? Would I have to use custom CSS? That's a great question. So if you're referring to embedding like a Shopify store or some sort of script code that you have to embed, you can do that. We don't allow you to adjust the CSS on the builder. We used to on our older builder, but it's just, we want to make it so that the builder is easy enough for you that you won't have to touch much code, right? So CSS, you won't see the ability to adjust. Which is a good point. Thank you for reminding me of saying that. In case any of you used our older builder, you'll find that that's a difference. Now, for you specifically, Melanie, I would say to use an HTML element if you're embedding something from Shopify, for example. So let me show you here. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Megan. Yes, I'm just going to go out of all of this. It doesn't really matter where I add it. But it would basically be an element in this case. So you're going to add element on whatever device or whatever section you need to add it to. And then we have this HTML element here. You're going to see text right here. So you'll click on the text and then the settings for that element will show up on the right? So you click on the element, same thing that we've been doing. And then you'll see here, I need to remove the words here and paste in the script code from your Shopify. I'm assuming it's some sort of store. So whatever it is that you need to embed onto the page, you can do that here. So just paste the script code, save your changes. It might not show up from the back end just because that's a lot of times when you embed script code onto our pages, it shows from the front end, but not the back. So just be aware that if it's blank here, just go ahead and view it from the front end and then you'll see it. So yeah, that's a good question. And that also leads me to one thing I just want to touch on too. When you are making the page, building it out, you'll see that we auto save it here. So anytime you make changes to the page from the back end, we will always save those changes automatically. So you don't have to save it every time. Now, the thing is though, with the publish button, is that if you auto save something here, and the changes save, you go, you leave, and then you come back, the changes are still there from the back end, right? The editor mode. If you don't click publish, then if you try to view the page from the front end, we won't see those changes. I think I did publish a lot of these changes, but whatever still needs to be published, so this is 11 changes that have not been published yet, they won't show up from the front end, which is the most important side of the page because that's what you're sharing with your people, right? So just always make sure to click the publish button in that case, and then that will allow the published version to be visible with all your changes. And then another thing too, if you're not ready to publish yet, you can always just click preview here, and that will allow you to preview what hasn't been published yet. So that's also important to know as well. Yeah, okay, really last quick thing, and then I'll open the floor if you guys have any other questions. You've had some great questions so far, actually. Last little tip, So this builder is basically pretty much mostly everything that you will find the same on a landing page or a site page, right? So you'll be able to use that for both types of pages. I did a landing page just because, but you can always do that on a site page too. One thing that I've heard a lot is that people sometimes they create their site and they have no idea what to put on the page yet, and they're like, oh, I wish I had a template for that page. But we don't have website page templates like we do for landing pages. You can still add templated sections like we talked about, but we don't have like a full page template. Just head to marketing landing pages if you want to use one of our templates here and create a landing page in the top right hand corner with the template that you like. Let's say I really like this template here. So I would create that page, click create as a landing page. Okay. You're going to have to go back out of the editor, back to your landing pages and forms. So I just click landing pages and forms in the top left-hand corner, takes me back into this page. And then you can just select that page, click select action, and then move to site. Okay, choose the site you want to move it to. We're going to warn you that it's going to use that site's URL from now on because it's a page on the site now. And then you'll see it show up here. So you can literally use any of our landing page templates as a website page if you need to have something to start with for the full page. It's just you have to do that one little step for now, and we'll probably be adding those options down the road. We just haven't done that yet. And then just be aware that when you do move a landing page to a site page, it will now live with the style guide of the site, which you can find here under style guide. So it won't use the style guide that it came in with. It's now going to be using this style guide for the site that you moved it into, essentially. Because all the pages on a website or a site with content on it that they purchased, for example, all those pages on a site will pull from the same style guide, which is the style guide of the site. And then landing pages have their own style guide. And you can use, like I showed you, the same style guide for both a site and a page. Just be aware that if you make edits to it, it will affect both places. Okay, so I know this was a lot, and we don't have very much time left, maybe like 3 to 5 minutes, but if there are any pressing questions, I want to open the floor. So let me go ahead and just stop sharing for a second. And if you guys have questions, feel free to just raise your hand. I know there's a little raise hand option, or drop it in the chat if you're more comfortable with that. And I just want to leave some space in case. Megan, awesome.
That was a lot. That was awesome. That was really
I know. A lot of things.
Because I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch what you did because I really wanted to do the website. So
Yeah.
there was that extra step at the end, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, how do you do that again?
Sure.
So do people like to have music playing in the background when you go to their website, or is that just too much noise?
That's a great question. We haven't released that option yet, so I don't know. I haven't talked to a lot of Simplero members about using it. I think it maybe could be a use case for someone who has like meditations or they have a, nervous system regulating business, something that is kind of where they'd want to have something in the background. Oh, okay. Awesome. Something in the background maybe that's kind of playing while they're, looking at things. I've seen that on different sites. If you wanted to do something like that, I mean, we do have autoplay on videos. So like if you had a video that had music, it could autoplay when they land on the page. We don't have autoplay for audios yet, but it might have been requested. You could put in that feature request, but that could be a use case for it, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been trying to upload my contacts. I know this isn't something that you just went over, but
Sure.
if you're having issues with uploading your contacts, why might that be? Because I went to Google, downloaded this CVS, is it CVS? And then tried to upload it, and it's just giving me an error saying that it's not going to upload.
Okay. Can you put in a support ticket? Because we can help you with that. There's sometimes little things in the CVS file that maybe need to be tweaked, but if you open a ticket, you can email support@simplero.com or click on your ticket widget, and then just let them know and maybe upload the CSV file there. We can try and figure out what's going on. Yeah, sometimes I've seen that.
So I did do that. However, can you do your phone? Like, because I feel like my phone actually has more accurate information than Google Gmail.
Oh, so when you say phone, are you talking about for contacts?
Yeah. hmm
And you're saying uploading contacts from your phone? Is that what you mean?
Right. Because all that it has Yeah, I've probably have more accurate information in the phone contacts than I do in the Google.
You should, I've never tested this, but you should be able to upload a CSV file on different devices. So as long as you've got that CSV file downloaded to your phone, which I've never done, but maybe you've got it downloaded, you should be able to do that. But if you're running into issues, go ahead and ask our support team because we can test it and see if maybe there's something that just doesn't work. It could be that too. I'd have to test it for sure. But yeah.
Okay. Well, I did that, so I'll just be waiting.
Okay,
Thank
okay, you
you.
put in a ticket? Perfect. They'll get back to you 100%. And I can check it too and make sure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Melanie, I'll do you, and then Wendy, I see your message, so I'll get to that as well. But yeah, Melanie.
Yeah, thank you for answering a question regarding the HTML versus CSS. I might sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't. I just know those two particular things, but I'll figure it out. I'm wondering with Simplero, is it possible? I don't think maybe Simplero has the Shopify level technology to process the purchase of physical products. Is that correct at this time?
You know, we are not built for it as well as Shopify is, for example. Like we're built for digital. We've got some workarounds for it, like you can do authorize only on your purchases and stuff like that, which could help because then you'd have to authorize the purchase. But we don't have great shipping options. Like we don't have a way to do like a shipping calculator or things that can kind of be important for physical products. So it's one of those things where you'd kind of have to decide if that is something where you're willing to embed the shipping cost into the price or things like that. But yeah, digital.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to consolidate and have my Shopify site not be there and then just I only have a few physical products.
Sure.
That's what I'm asking. But I understand if it's
Okay.
too complex of a workaround. But
It could be, yeah. I know we have some guides on that. If you go into our help guides, I know there might be one that kind of has some details. Maybe I can find it right now.
Okay.
And you could try it. I mean, if you've got only a couple products, it might not be too bad. Some people who have like mostly physical products probably would want to not use Simplero for everything because it's really built for digital. But physical products, let me just check really quickly. I know we have something. Oh, I didn't spell physical correctly, that's why. Okay. Combining your tangible product. Authorize only pricing. Okay, that's probably the one that I'll just drop it in the chat in case you've never seen it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Awesome. Okay, was there anything else on that or anything on the builder or questions on that?
No. I think I got all my questions answered. So thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, no problem. Wendy, what was the website for color? Oh, Megan, awesome. Thank you for dropping that in the chat. Good point. Coolers.co. So yeah. Megan, if there's anything else, I know we've got maybe sales.
So, oh gosh, what did you showed another way to go somewhere and plug in that, oh gosh, what was it?
Is it the template, using it for a website page?
I think it was, and I didn't know where you would copy and paste that into Simplero. I didn't see
Oh,
that.
was it the icons
Yes.
for the buttons? Where it kind of took it and copied it? Let me just show you again because I can just do it a little slower and maybe that will also help. I'm gonna go out here. So funny, I can share all these different windows and I'm like, no, I want to share the one window. Which one is it? Okay, so let me go back. All right, so let's say I would like to be in the back end here. So remind me again, Megan, are you referring to like the icons? Is that right?
Yeah, I believe it was the icons. I remember how you copied and pasted the color. Was it the color? I feel it was something. It was
Okay.
the very first thing that you did that you showed us, and I'm drawing a blank on what it was, but I was like, oh, where did you actually paste that into?
The color palette, maybe? Possibly.
Well, maybe you could do that because I'm going to play with that in a minute.
Sure. Okay. Well, let me just show you. So for example, let's say I have no idea what colors I'm going to do. I'm pulling them from Coolors, or let's say you have your colors already, as long as you've got the hex codes. So I'm just pressing the space bar on my keyboard. I like this. Let me just see. So let's say I grab this code. I'm just going to click on it. I got the hex code. I can copy that to my computer. and then head back in here and pick which one I want to put it on. So let's say I want this to be my accent. So I would click on the box, click on this little rainbow wheel, and then I can paste in the hex code here. And now it will use that one, and you'll see it pulls down here. So maybe that's what we were referring to. I'm not sure, but let me know.
No, it wasn't, but I would have forgotten that. So that was great that you just showed me that again.
Okay. The only other thing I think I copied and pasted was the icons. Like for example, I've got this button, so I click on it, and then down here under icons, I can do icon left and icon right. And then I click on browse icons here, and that would take me here. So I don't know if maybe that was part of it, but you see here, I go here, I find the icon I like. I want this one. So I'm going to click on it, and then I can just click on that code by just clicking it. Like no need to copy it. You just click it and it will copy it for you. And I just come back into my site from the back end, and I paste it into the FA icon spot there. And then there you go. And then it shows up. It was already there, but
No, that's great. I don't think it was that, but it doesn't matter. I'll
Okay.
go watch it, but
you know, rewatch the recording if you need to, or maybe it'll come to you, and you can always put in a support ticket, and we'll let you know what it was. We'll
I know
show
what
you.
I wanted to ask. When I was watching or talking with Kelvin the other day, he was showing like a whole diagram of the flow of when you go do funnels and like what it's broken down to. So when I
Yeah.
look at this, like now I'm understanding how to play around with it and create, but I'm still like, oh my gosh, well, what information am I still going to put there? Like I have to be able to know why I'm doing that specific element or button so that it moves to something else. So there was a visual that he had, and I can't remember where it was because I wanted to print it out. Could you maybe point me to that? It was something like that. Yeah.
One?
Where
Yeah, so you can find it. Every Simplero account should have it. In the top of your Simplero account dashboard, you can see this little image right here, Simplero Overview Illustration. And if you click on it, that'll show you in a pop-up. I think it might have been this that you're talking about.
yeah, I mean,
It'll
Yeah.
take you a little bit through. This would help you kind of see the flow of how to use Simplero, right? So if you're building out pages for marketing purposes, that'll help you understand what you're putting on the page. Like I would say when you're creating a page, kind of have an idea of what this page, what's the goal of this page, right? So if it's a landing page, are you going to be using this page for them to opt into a list? Or are you going to be like to promote a lead magnet, like a freebie of some kind? Or are you going to use this page to actually sell your program? Then you'd probably want the buttons to point to go to an order form, right? So I won't be able to go into too much nitty gritty on that part, but I can send you guys to all of our help guides on that, where we've got some different videos talking you through how to set up your funnels, what the goal would be of the funnel. This is more related to building out the page once you know what you're going to use it for. But if you don't know too, we also have done for you campaigns. If you go to marketing done for you campaigns here, and this gives you kind of different campaign ideas that you could build. If it loads, I will show you. Here we go. So this is our demo account. So there's all these different kinds, but let's say you want to build a course and sell that course. So we'll create a landing page with a template, and then you just edit that landing page using the tips that I shared. But we'll create a landing page with buttons that already link to a product, right? So all you need to do is just customize the page, customize the product, and then the product and the page are already linked. We've already linked all the buttons for you. So that could help if you kind of want to look at different options for building out certain programs, like a course bundle or a coaching call bundle or things like that. A lead magnet bundle. I think we've got a summit funnel, your client getting lead magnet. Like we'll build all the components and connect them, and then you can just edit them to make them your own. So that could also kind of help give you some direction on ideas for what to use your pages for. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Well, does anyone else have any questions on the builder? I think if not, we'll go ahead and end it, but I just want to leave space if there's anything else pressing about, yeah, Melanie, I see your
Yeah.
hand.
So, last question. The
Yeah.
ultimate difference between a digital product and a digital course is the product more like maybe a one-off masterclass situation, whereas the course has multiple modules. Is that the best way to think of it?
Good question. Yeah. When it comes to products, so in Simplero, the product is the gateway to access any kind of content that you're selling. They have to purchase the product. So you could use the product to sell a digital product or a one-off event, a one-off meeting, or to sell your coaching program, or to sell like a 3-month package of coaching for you, right? You can literally sell anything, or maybe just sell a PDF. Like, could be anything, or a course, right? So a course is just the content that they could purchase, but they have to pay for the product in order to get access to the course. And then the course would be more for if you've got like multiple modules and lessons. So yeah, so I won't go into too much deep dive of that, but you can see, for example, a course would be like, okay, I've got module 1, module 2, module 3, and I'm teaching them about a certain topic with lessons inside of it. And then I'd want to put it in a course format, because then I can actually have all these different lessons with videos and maybe add a quiz after each module and, segment out the learning. So that's what I would say the course is for. That's kind of that type of offering. But the product is just the way that they're going to pay for it. And then the product you can have them access any type of content, not just a course, based on paying for the product. So I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Awesome. Okay, well, I will go ahead and just stop sharing here. But this was great. You guys are going to get the replay. I'm going to post it in the community. You'll have it there, simplero.community. And then you can go back and rewatch it, because I know it was a lot. So, but yeah, it was good to see you guys and great questions. So have fun building. Awesome.
Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, have a good weekend.
Thanks,
Bye.
you too. Bye.